evening, Toronto. My name is Julian Yim, and in today's session of Neighborhood Watch, we're going to be talking and tackling about the issue of childhood obesity and being physically inactive. We have Emma, the community nurse, and Dr. Carey's a pediatrician with us.
Thanks, Julian. It appears that today in our educational system there is much focus on preparing children for their future careers as well as shaping them into respectable members of society. With this in mind, funding and resources are being spent on promoting education, leaving little attention given to physical activity.
I agree, Emma. In my practice, I see a wide range of children, and during the initial discussion, I hear the same things. Schoolwork is demanding and physical activities are absent.
Thank you, Emma and Dr. Carey's. Next, we have Elena, the principal at Driftwood Public School.
Yes, Julian, it does appear that our educational system is focusing a lot heavier on the academia side of things as opposed to physical activity. However, we're not ignoring it completely. And as of 2012, we passed a new budget of $190 million worth of cuts. Alright, so they also cut 200 secondary school jobs, 134 office staff, as well as operational and maintenance work. And most importantly, the TDSB cut $2.5 million worth of cuts from our outdoor educational programs, which includes our physical activity programs. So although it does seem that we are focusing more on the academia as opposed to the physical activity, it's because we are pushed into that stream. Without the funds, it's just not possible for us to be able to afford that.
All those cuts are indeed significant. What about the funds specifically allocated for Driftwood?
Although it appears that Driftwood has a large budget, in reality the general allocation per pupil is about $96.50 intended to cover things like school supplies, textbooks and subscriptions, furniture, equipment repairs, things for like computers and desks, admin fees, field trips, prizes, painting costs, internet, and at last, athletic services. The budget allocation that our school received does not support different sports like basketball and football, and of course those are the most popular sports among the kids. And although we have facilities to support basketball courts and football courts, we don't particularly have teachers to coach the kids or the money to support that. Now our prep teachers are phenomenal and they teach very well, but we can't afford to have after-school programs to train the kids to do so. As I mentioned, our allocations cover a wide range of different school expenses, and dividing that budget between different school programs leaves us little for physical activity. Now also travel becomes an issue because we have to get students to different courts or different football fields, and with the $96.50 per allocation per pupil, we don't have enough money to cover those extra expenses. Of course, this area, and I'm talking on behalf of the Black Creek community, is a high needs area, and as much as parents would like to get their kids involved in more physical activity, they can't really support some of the or help us with some of the programs we'd like to provide for their kids. Now, sports like hockey, basketball, football, they require shoes and apparel, equipment, and these expenses go way beyond our school budget. Another issue we face is that certain sports can be very dangerous, and not having a nurse at the school in case of an injury or an accident.
Thank you, Elena. You raised some strong points. We'll touch back on safety in a moment. But Ben, as a gym teacher, what do you think the schools are doing? Are they doing enough to set up physical activity programs?
No, I don't. Because right now the school curriculum is really overloaded, and there's a lot of pressure being put on teachers, especially the ones that have to teach split grades. It's difficult to find time for us to do something active with the kids. They also tend to prioritize other subjects over my gym class. Not a lot of guidance for me either to teach gym class. In math and English, you find that the criteria is a lot more extensive, but for gym, it's a bit more vague, and it's harder for me to grade and evaluate physical performance. There's a lot of pressure being put on the school to perform well in EQAO. So there's a lot more emphasis being put on math and English, and parents also tend to care about those subjects a lot more than they will in gym class, or they would about gym class.
Gyms are often too small, equipment is lacking or poorly maintained, physical activity cannot be performed in classrooms because they are too overcrowded, phys ed is usually the first subject to be cancelled when there is a school-wide event, the gymnasium is in need for an assembly. Teachers are wary of taking their students on off-site events, like the park or neighborhood walks, due to the threat of litigation.
Well, how about setting up after-school programs if there aren't enough times during the day?
Right now, we don't have enough funding to pay for staff to supervise after-school programs. Also, it's really difficult for someone like me to get 30 kids and try to control a class like that. I spend 5 to 10 minutes trying to get my class under control, and then I only have so much time to teach them the skill, and I need to spend another 5 to 10 minutes getting them ready to leave.
That aside, if we're able to provide enough staff, would the students be engaged? Let's go to field correspondent Ben Cottle to get a feel from a student.
Thank you, Julian. I'm currently here with Brittany, who's a student at Driftwood Public School. What do you think about the issue?
Well, I think maybe if the school gave us more equipment and more of my friends in gym class participated and outside the school, but right now we just take turns using the equipment and not everybody participates. Some kids just sit on the ground and they don't really even care.
Okay, well, what about activities outside of the school?
Well, I like playing outdoors, but our neighborhood doesn't really have a lot of places for me to play, like parks and even skateboard parks for the boys and basketball courts and stuff. And also sometimes me and my friends, we don't really feel safe to go outside of our neighborhood.
I saw in the news that there were burglaries and people have been shot close to where I live. That's scary. And we don't have the money for me to get involved in sports or even swimming. And what fun is it when all my friends are at the mall anyway? I wouldn't want to even play sports unless some of my friends did, and no one really wants to anymore. Facebook and video games are much more fun.
Thanks, Ben Cottle. That's an interesting perspective from a student. Now, are you able to get a hold of a parent from Driftwood on this issue?
Yes, thank you, Julian. Here we have a parent from Driftwood Public School, Elahead, to weigh in on the issue.
Their sports are just too expensive. Even for my son to play a minor hockey league, it's going to cost our family up to $1,500, and it's just the money that we don't have. For example, my nephew is playing AAA hockey, and his costs are up to $10,000, and this is just too much. You're typically living with week to week with funds, and unfortunately $1,500 is just the money that we don't have in our budget. My daughter has shown interest in soccer. Of course, it's way cheaper than hockey, but I have 3 children, and to put all 3 in that sport is just too much money for us. It's not only the sport, you have to pay $300 for administration fee, and you have to pay for equipment too. And what if my child gets to the sport and she feels like this is not what she wants to do, and this is just a waste of money from our budget?
Oh, we have a caller calling in. Her name is Audrey. She's another Driftwood parent. Maybe she has an opinion on this issue.
Hi, Julian. I would love for my children to be able to experience winter sports like skiing, but again, it's just too expensive. The rentals, the lessons, and even the gas cost to commute are just too much for us now. We just have to tell our children that they won't be able to participate in swimming lessons this spring as well. My husband was recently laid off, and we just can't afford it. Every activity at our local recreation center is just too far out of our budget when we have 3 children. How do you decide who gets to go swimming this month?
Thanks, Audrey. Income and social environments are obvious concerns. Maybe Emily, as the MVP of Toronto, can weigh in on this issue.
Thanks, Julian. Costs for organized sports are expensive. There's no denying that. But across Toronto, we've made them more accessible for both students and parents, and more affordable for parents too. Toronto has recently made 23 recreational facilities free for students and parents. Plus, we've been making 16 more accessible in the fall. These will include low-income areas like Driftwood, Etobicoke, Scarborough, and North York. I think the big picture here is not only the cost, but also the social and physical environments that the children play in. We are working hard to make the Driftwood area feel safe for everyone, but it's hard. Regardless of how social economic status is measured, studies have always found that the people and the families in those areas do not do enough physical activity to benefit their health. We have also found that families facing low income and low education also have a higher crime rate and a lower literacy rate, which is a problem facing Driftwood right now. Sure, we can make the facilities accessible, but will the children even come if they don't feel safe? Many children don't feel safe leaving their own homes, and if parents tell them, no, don't go, it's not safe, they won't. Many children will socialize on the computers when they can. Why would they go outside and risk their safety?
Many parents don't see a problem with their children socializing, as Emily put it, electronically. Dr. Carries, maybe you can weigh in on this health consequence of being physically inactive in childhood.
Being physically inactive is a major concern facing our children these days. But what really happens when we're sitting in front of the TV? Typically you're snacking, and those are usually on high-cal, high-sugar foods. So couple an inactive child with a high-calorie diet, and you painted a pretty picture of obesity. But what people don't see is that they also put their child at risk for diabetes and cardiovascular disease as well. There's been a direct correlation to income level and physical inactivity. People with low incomes, usually below $15,000 a year, suffer from things like asthma and obesity, whereas people with incomes levels over $50,000 per year don't. People with household incomes below $15,000 per year are more likely to report leading sedentary lifestyle. Only 17.6% of those people with the income level of $15,000 per year report reaching physical activity, where 39.5% report that they are sedentary and have no leisure time or activities. We have reached a stage where children may not outlive their parents, and we may actually see a decline in the life expectancy of Canadians. We have shown in studies that increase in physical activity alone will not combat obesity. We need the children to be engaged in physical activities outside of the school system as well, and also look at the compounding factors such as proper nutrition if we really want to tackle the issues that face our children in relation to lack of physical activity.
Emma, do you have anything to add as a community nurse?
Dr. Carries is right. We need to target the whole problem and not just one component, and we also need to look at the sources as well. Parents are playing a huge role in influencing children on what is appropriate and what is not. The TV is becoming the babysitter, and the drive-thru is replacing Sunday night dinners. Parents play such an important role in shaping their child's future, and instilling healthy habits at a young age can make a difference when they are older. According to Public Health Agency of Canada, 30 minutes 4 days a week is enough, and it can be incorporated into families' daily routine, doing such things as shoveling snow, help raking leaves, doing chores around the house, or even if they are watching TV, if they get up every hour and do some stretching. In Canada, and more specifically Toronto, we face another challenge, and that is a wide range of cultures. It's beautiful to see all these cultures coming together, but sometimes these cultures can contribute to low activity and poor nutrition. In my practice as a community nurse, I'm finding more and more families are restricting their child's activity level in the winter months for fear of it being too cold, and usually it's minority populations with these concerns. Their cultural diets may also not be what is most nutritious for their children, but it's hard to change tradition and to voice concerns when people do not believe that change is necessary. We need to look at everything, from culture and education to income and environment, and everything in between when combating this issue.
Low levels of physical activity can cause unmerited problems for our children, both immediate and long term.
As parents, teachers, and healthcare professionals, we need to focus on the problems surrounding low physical activity and the things that we can do to combat negative health conditions like obesity and heart disease.
We need to widen our approach and look at all the compounding factors which relate to low physical activity. So things like income, social status, physical environment, culture, social environment, and educational literacy.
We need to educate our children and our families on the importance of being physically active and living a healthy lifestyle, while also taking into account the barriers they face in achieving these.
By providing safe and affordable recreational activities for families and educating them on proper nutrition and eating right, we can take an upstream approach in preventing conditions like obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease in our children.
Coming together as a community, we can make these facilities more accessible for everyone and spread the word on nutrition and physical activity.
Wait, you forgot your bag. And making sure the environment is safe for our children to engage in physical activity.
By raising awareness and advocating for our community and empowering all those involved, we can get one step closer to achieving health for all.
Audio Jungle.